Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. Reuben Frank and Dave Zangaro here with you. We just got back from the NovaCare complex, Rube.
We did, but before we get into that, I'm going to embarrass you and say happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was yesterday, but thank you.
We didn't have a podcast yesterday, so
that is true.
I was going to text you and wish you happy birthday. I was like, you know what? I'll just wait till the pod.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. I'm not a big birthday guy, but it does kind of let you do whatever you want on that one day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
cool.
Mine's during the middle of the season, so I work on my birthday. It's in November, so covered some games on my birthday.
Well, it's funny. I took off yesterday, and everyone thought it was because it was my birthday, but really it was because it was really nice weather, and I wanted to get outside a little bit.
Oh, I just assumed you took off because it was your birthday.
No, I don't really care about that. But it was nice weather, and so you and I were talking a little bit. I went up to Delaware Water Gap and hiked up Mount Tammany yesterday. I'd always wanted to do that hike, and I just never have, so I got to do that. It was good.
Yeah, I'm a big Delaware Water Gap alum, I guess you would say. We used to go.
You graduated from there?
I did. We used to go kayaking down the river under Interstate 80. We go up to Portland, and
all the way to Maine,
Portland, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
And that would be good. That would be a good kayak down the Atlantic Ocean. My dad's from Portland, Maine. It's a great town. But yeah, it's beautiful up there, Sunfish Pond, and
yeah, I'd never really, and I didn't get to spend a ton of time there. I did the hike up the mountain, down the mountain, and then I wanted to do like a long kind of circular route, but the creek was a little high for my liking, and I think I wisely turned around.
Yeah, we used to go camping there all the time, and there was a Howard Johnson's across the river in, I guess, is that Stroudsburg?
Is that where you put the tent up?
Right in the parking lot. Yeah. No, but you go kayaking and camping and all that stuff and hiking, and then you'd go get breakfast at the Holiday Inn. And no, it was Howard Johnson's. Yeah. What is it? Howard Johnson Hojo's over in
Continental. You go in through the side door and say, good morning, everyone. Where's that waffle maker?
Yeah. And then, anyway.
Yeah.
Good memory. It's beautiful up there. So I'm glad you got away.
It was nice. Yeah. Nice day. But today we're hopping right back into draft stuff. Yeah. We have a busy show for everyone. A bunch of questions coming up a little bit later. I want to update my All-Howie Roseman draft team that ran last week, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it. So it's fun because not only does it show you the great players he's drafted in some positions, but it shows you some of the weak spots in terms of positions for him in the draft. So we'll look at that in a little bit. But since we just talked to Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, it's their annual pre-draft availability. Not always the most illuminating. This is smoke screen season for a reason, and we're a week and 2 days away from the draft. He's not going to walk up there and be like, this is what I'm thinking going into this draft. That wouldn't be very wise, but you can kind of read between the lines. It's some certain questions.
Yeah, and it's good for general information, just to get him talking about his process and how he thinks. I think that's the most interesting thing that comes out of these things, because you're right. He's not going to talk about we got to get an edge or we got to get an offense. He's just not going to say anything close to that.
And really, in the last few years, he has stayed away from even talking in generalities about the draft class.
Right.
He doesn't like
the Donnell Pumphrey rule.
Yeah, it really was Pumphrey. It was he went into that 2017 draft. 17? Yeah, 2017 draft talking about how good of a running back crop it was, and they ended up with Pumphrey, who never played in the NFL. So ever since then, he really has stayed away from even speaking in generalities about, hey, this is a good draft class for this position or that position.
Yeah, but it's anytime you get to talk to the GM, it's there's positives from it, and I thought today there was some good stuff.
Yeah, do you want to just ping pong this back and forth a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that.
You want to go first?
Let's ping pong it.
Okay.
I thought he was asked a good question about there's some edges and in this draft who didn't have much production in college. There's a few of them, and he was asked. It was Caden who asked. It was a good question. I don't know Caden's last name. Sorry, Caden, New Jersey.
I want to say Stearns, but that's not.
He's the safety they had on the practice squad. But anyway, he said, how do you evaluate an edge?
Caden Steele.
Yeah. How do you evaluate an edge who didn't have a lot of production? I thought it was a really good question. He said the first thing you do is you have to understand what he was being asked to do. What were his responsibilities? It's maybe not his Maybe he wasn't a guy who's supposed to go all out to the quarterback all the time. Maybe he had, they were looking for other things from him. And the other thing is, you look at traits and trust the traits. And if the traits are there, and, I think he didn't say it, but obviously the thinking is you're going to get to the NFL and have coaching that you didn't get as far as technique and how to use your hands and all that stuff that you didn't get in college. And then the production will come. But it was an interesting question. And it's an issue. I mean, it's something that you're going to look at this year because, and the other thing that Howie didn't mention is playing time. Like if you're Georgia, you're going to play 40% of the snaps, maybe if you're an edge. So you might not get 17 sacks. You might have 8, but could still be a really, really good prospect.
I'm glad you mentioned Georgia because that was a knock on Nolan Smith
right
coming out. And it probably is what in at least some part helped push him down to the Eagles at 30 overall, was that he really wasn't a very productive player in terms of traditional stats at Georgia. So we know for the Eagles that it's not like a non-starter. Like we know that they will look past it if the attributes are there.
Yeah.
If the tools in their body are there, which is the favorite saying of Howie Roseman, which I don't think I love very much.
I don't either.
Tools in his body is the Howieism that gets used a lot. And look, I understand it. It's if they have the athleticism to think it's all a projection anyway.
Right.
Now I think there's more risk involved. It's a harder projection when they haven't produced at the college level.
And we've also seen guys with a ton of production in college that it doesn't translate to the NFL.
Sure. I mean, with this team, we've seen examples both ways, right? Nolan Smith, not a lot of production in college. Looks like he's going to be a very good pro. Derek Barnett broke Reggie White's sack record at Tennessee. I mean, that was like put on banners as he got drafted into the NFL, and that certainly didn't translate into the league.
Yeah. The other thing he said, you look at hurries, you look at tackles for loss, you look at all the other stats, and if he's up there,
the nerd stats too.
Pardon?
The nerd stats. Yeah. Aside from what's on paper.
Yeah. So that was interesting, especially this year when there's a fair chance that they will go edge if they stay at 32 or move around.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
I think it was just about the nature of where they are with the 32nd pick in this draft. He said they have to be honest about where they are. And, it's not very realistic if they're going to trade up into the top 20. So you have to make the best of it. You have to really be honest with yourself about who's going to be available. Now, on the flip side of that, he didn't say this, but I'll say this. You have to also be ready for someone to fall into your range you weren't ready for. We saw them screw that up with Andre Dillard back in 22. They didn't do a whole lot of work on Andre Dillard because they didn't think he'd be available. Then he's available and they draft him. And then they find out after the fact that maybe they should have done some more work on him. So I think you kind of look at both sides there, but he admitted they don't have 32 first round grades in this class, which no team does. I mean, shocker. Now I have heard that for some teams this year, fewer than normal. So if a team normally has, 18 to 19, I've heard some teams have less than that this year. If you're in like the 14, 15 range.
Do you think that decreases their chance of picking at 32?
Well, remember, it takes 2 to tango.
Yeah.
So
there might be a team that doesn't look at this draft that way. I don't know. Maybe they all do.
Yeah, no, that's very possible. And when you're 32, the quarterback question is always out there. Like if a team wants to get up for a quarterback, that changes the equation. And then, if you're looking for a team that's willing to trade up, maybe they're not willing to trade up for a position player. That player doesn't exist for them in this draft, especially if it is weaker than normal, which is what a lot of people seem to think. But the quarterback makes you throw all that out.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I like just listening to him talk about his process and the way he thinks on draft day and how he views different picks in different places in the draft. And it's not anything that you can't write a story about it. It's just interesting it's kind of the process of understanding him and how he operates.
And he's such a fascinating guy.
Yeah. Talked about tight ends. He and Nick both did. I think they're going to take a tight end.
It was the one topic that came up a few times in this press conference.
Yeah. And I think the important thing to remember is, even if they do, and we were just talking to our huddle producer, Mike Mulhern, about what it might take to get Dallas Goedert back for like a 1-year deal. Dallas Goedert's 30. He's missed a lot of time, not just this past year, but every year, almost every year. He's not going to play on his current contract. I think we all know that. I think they wouldn't mind having him back with a pay cut. What would it take? How much would it take? That's not really the topic here, but I think it's kind of part of it. But
he's owed over $14.5 million this year.
I mean, I think it might just be like, I don't know if they want to pay more than $5 or $6 million.
It seems like everything they've done this offseason has been with the thinking that he's not going to be here. But at a certain point, I mean, gosh, they're so much better with him. And could you imagine, like, it, not that it's nickel and diming, because you're thinking long term, and I get all that, but to miss out on a piece that could win you a Super Bowl, that's tough.
Yeah. And look, he's still here, which tells you that there is a number. There is a number that they would agree to. I just don't know how low it is. And I don't know if, like, I don't think he's going to make any more anywhere else. So,
well, the other problem for him is that teams have spent their money.
Yeah.
Free agency. We're deep into this offseason now.
That's what I mean. I'm not sure he had a ton of value just because of the injuries and the age to begin with. So maybe there's a resolution that would keep him here another year. But in any case, and I guess my point was, whether he's here or not, you need a tight end. You need a young tight end. With all due respect to the guys they signed and Grant Calcaterra, who's a good 2. I don't think he's a 1. And I think they know that, and I think 1's not on the team right now, most likely. So, look, they found Selleck in the 5th round. Ertz was a 2. Goddard was a 2. Chad Lewis was undrafted. He wasn't up to their level as a receiver, or wasn't a blocker at all. But you can find guys like that in the middle rounds. L.J. Smith was a 2. Had a better career than I remembered. I was looking at his numbers today. Caught a Super Bowl touchdown. But I think somewhere in I think 3rd, 4th round, somewhere in there in the middle rounds, it'll be time to take a tight end.
Yeah.
And
Howie's only drafted 4.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, he drafted Clay Harbor in 2010. It was his first draft as GM.
A loyal Eagle Eye listener, by the way, Clay Harbor.
What's going on, Clay? 4th rounder.
Appreciate you.
Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert were 2s, and Grant Calcaterra was a 6. There's just haven't been many tight ends he's drafted.
Yeah. And Chip didn't take one in 15, did he? No. So, yeah, they've had so much stability, I mean, at that position. I mean, Selleck was drafted in 2007. It's 19 years ago now. So they've had 3 tight ends in almost 2 decades, 3 really, really good ones. And so there hasn't really been a reason to spend much in the way of resources on the position, but I feel like there is now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What round are you thinking? I know it's impossible to answer, but
day 2.
Yeah.
I won't give you a round yet, but okay. I think day 2.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm gonna go 4th round.
Okay, that would be day 3.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay, I thought you said you agreed with me.
I agree. Just as far as general, not on the day 2. I mean, I think 3rd or 4th round. So yeah.
Okay, I got you.
I half agree with you.
Sure, I was very confused about that. Yeah, I think this is a year they use one, and I wouldn't be shocked if it happens in the 2nd round.
I wouldn't be shocked either.
Yeah, I mean, when we did our position look at most likely, the reason I didn't have tight end higher was because I don't think there's going to be a player at the 32nd pick that lines up value wise. Yeah. If there was, it might have been higher.
Yeah.
And now at 64, I think there's a much better chance that player is there.
Yeah, it'd be fun having a tight end. I mean, there's some. I was looking this up. I mean, tight ends never used to get drafted in the early rounds, like here and there. But I mean, now it's just, I think, was there 3 last year in the 1st round, 3 or 4? I think the Kyle Pitts year, there was 3. What was that, 22? So it's a lot more common than it used to be in early rounds.
Mm-hmm. Next up on my list was character concerns. Howie Roseman recently on a podcast talked about violence against women. and how that's kind of a non-starter for the Eagles. He was asked like specifically like, what's the criteria? And he said it's beyond just this, but they have kind of objective criteria that they put up against a prospect. And he said the reason for that is they don't want to start talking themselves into a particular player that they really like. So that's not to say they haven't drafted players with character concerns. They did a couple years ago, Jalen Carter, and they've done it with plenty of other players too. So it's not like this is some holier than thou team that doesn't draft anyone with character concerns, but he wouldn't get too deep into the process, which I'd imagine is somewhat proprietary.
Sure.
But he did allow that. Yeah, that is an organizational thing. He said they try to take the gray area out of it. He talked about the legality issue of it all. So like innocent until proven guilty. So if there's, I took that to mean if there's some sort of conviction, then they're off their board.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it as well. I asked Howie about defensive tackles. It's a position that's really evolved over the years. More value now than there used to be. They would just put like a guy that was just too big to play edge or linebacker, and they just put him in the middle, and you'd be a run stuffer. But the position's really evolved. Certainly the value has really evolved, as Milton Williams' contract tells you. That's not happening 10 years ago. And he said we do look at it differently than we used to.
I also feel like they were kind of on the forefront of that.
You think?
A little bit. And a player like Fletcher Cox will push you that way.
Yeah.
And you realize how valuable it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they've taken more interior defensive linemen in the first round than anybody. Even going back to Bunkley and Mike Patterson, Howie was here. He wasn't GM. Mm-hmm. That was back-to-back years. And then, Corey Simon in 2000. So, yeah, they've taken – there's no way anybody's taken more interior linemen than they have. And even just since Howie, obviously the last couple of years with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go that way again.
Yeah, it seems very possible. It's the quickest way to the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's what Howie said, and it's a great point. And it's just – I just think the position has had – I think teams have changed the way they look at the position now. They're looking for someone more athletic, more pass rush oriented than just being a run stuffer. Now, obviously, if you're a nose, some guys just aren't going to get to the quarterback. But it's interesting how the position, and I think the league, like different positions, kind of go up and down. There's different waves and trends as far as value. But it's been interesting to watch that position.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the money is following that.
Yeah.
Boy, sure is the money following that.
Yeah. How do you think Milton will do?
I don't know. I think Milton's a good player. I think he's going to be a good player. I think there's a relatively high floor there, but I think it's a much different circumstance he's in now than what he was dealing with.
What if he has the year he had in 23? Would he have half a sack? He didn't really have a particularly good year. That's going to be looked at as, but that's the player he is. I think he's gotten better, but I just can't the expectations are going to be astronomical with that deal. And I'm not sure he's that player.
Maybe he should have turned some of it down and said, you know what? I don't think I'm worth.
Well, and I think the same is true with Josh Sweat to an extent. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's that player. Yeah,
that's what free agency is, though. Free agency is overpay.
Unless you're Howie.
Well, he's done it too. He did his most expensive free agent last year is a guy who was inactive for the Super Bowl. So let's not act like he's nailing everything here.
No, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's what I saw he's talking about.
Yeah. Let's give Nick some love. Nick was up there. Most of the questions go to Howie.
And it's a draft. Howie,
sure.
So it's always kind of awkward because nobody asked Nick questions. And
I asked Nick a question.
You did. He got like 2 or 3, and Howie's always kind of they have their little inside jokes about who's getting the most questions. And Howie even made a remark about that. He said, Nick would tell you if any of you asked him a question, I'm just going to interrupt and say something that struck me was Howie saying,
you were already talking.
Was I?
Does that mean you were interrupting yourself just now?
I believe I was. I like this though. He said, did he say or did Nick say? He said, Yeah, I know what players Nick is not going to like before I show him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And
it made me think that they had just like been in an office and Howie brought him a player and Nick was like, you know what I think about that guy.
Maybe, but I think they really are pretty locked in.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to mention this, but this kind of goes along those lines. He was asked about Kevin Patullo and the process with Patullo, different, like how it differs from when he was with Kellen Moore last year. And he said, well, I've known Patullo for a long time. So along the same lines, like how he knows which players Nick is going to like and which players Nick isn't going to like, he can do that with Patullo too. And there's that history there. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that history is there.
Yeah, I think Nick said it. It's a positive. So
I'm sure he thinks it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but yeah.
If I can interrupt your interruption, the thing I was going to say, I asked Nick about, I
think I interrupted you. I don't think I interrupted myself.
You'd already been talking for a while.
Yeah, but it was all part of the interruption.
So you talked for 30 seconds that said, by the way, this was an interruption?
Because you know what? Because the initial interruption was in response to what you were saying. When I interrupted myself, it wasn't. I was basically just going somewhere totally different.
I see.
So there is a method to my madness somewhere in there.
Sure. I asked him about the value of having, that Jason Kelsey for Cam Jurgens, that Fletcher Cox for Jalen Carter, because Lane last month said he wants that, or he'd at least welcome that experience of teaching the next right tackle of the Philadelphia Eagles. And Nick was oddly specific here, which I really appreciated. It was more than just, it's valuable to learn from that guy. He said it's valuable because they have teach tape, and these great players that they've had are on the teach tape inevitably. So like Lane Johnson's going to be on the teach tape. So player X who gets drafted in the first or second round can actually go ask Lane about why he did that and what he did it, or like how he did it. So that was very specific from Nick, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, and I think he used BG as an example
with Nolan. Yeah,
with Nolan
or Jalix,
and he did mention Jalix, but he went through like the whole, Kelsey with Cam, and I mean he went through the whole obviously BG with Nolan and Fletch with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. He brought those up, which was interesting to me. I mean, it's obviously something that's really important to him.
And we all know the names, but he does too.
Yeah. But it's anytime you can get him talking specifically like that, it's good.
It's like a win, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It's unusual.
Anything else?
No, I think we covered most of it.
Yeah, not much on the Jordan Davis 5th-year option. We had that discussion last week, I believe.
Yeah.
How we didn't really get into that.
We're not going to talk about, not surprisingly. I think the date is May 2nd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we need to decide by May 1st.
Yeah.
After the draft, which I don't know if it really matters.
I don't think so.
I don't think if they drafted a defensive tackle in the first round, it would really stop them from using that 5th year. Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Yeah.
All right, you want to take a little break? Let's take a break. We've been talking for a little while. Terrace Marshall, the Eagles signed a new receiver. We'll get to that and a bunch of questions and the All-Howie draft team coming up on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and NissanUSA.com today.
We are back on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. Rube looks surprised that we returned from that break. You all right?
I was just trying to get my transcribing app working.
Okay. But after our last podcast, the Eagles signed a player.
They did.
Terrace Marshall Jr., former second-round pick, 59th overall in the 2021 draft out of LSU. You remember he was once the third receiver on that LSU team behind Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. His NFL career has not quite gone the plan.
No, it hasn't. And it's interesting because actually we didn't mention this, but Howie was asked about like all the first-round picks that they've gotten off the scrap heap, guys whose careers haven't worked out. A lot of second-round picks too. And his answer was, there's talent in there somewhere. It's just,
where is it?
Yeah, that's the question.
No, it's in their body.
Yeah, it's in their body. This is a guy that obviously look, he played with two great players at LSU, and it just hasn't worked out in the league. And at some point, somebody liked him, just like Lewis Seen, and it's just all these first, second round picks that they've piled up. They're long shots. I mean, the chance that he's going to make the team and ever contribute, I think, minimal. But you bring him in, you get him in the program, you teach him the playbook, and you get him out in the field for OTAs and training camp, and just see if there's anything there. Well, Paris Campbell was a second round pick. John Ross was a 1, I believe, right?
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago. But there's no reason not to. There's no downside of bringing these guys in. There was something there. Now those two guys didn't work out, but
I mean, Campbell worked out a little bit.
Not really. He caught a touchdown in a game they lost, I think. Was that against Tampa?
He was around.
Yeah, but I mean, he caught 9 passes. I mean, come on. I think he caught 9 passes. If I know that, that's like a Dave Zangaro type pull right there. Let's see. Paris Campbell last year.
6 for 30.
6 passes.
And a touchdown.
He did catch a touchdown. Man, I hate when I get that stuff wrong. Was it against Tampa? Did they play Tampa? Did they lose to Tampa? Caught a touchdown in Tampa. Mm-hmm. I got part of it right. Yeah, a game they lost 33-16. Anyway, I like the concept. I like bringing in guys that have something that once made them highly sought after, highly regarded. Long shot, but
they don't normally seem to work.
They don't.
These types of signings. But
I remember I wrote a story back last spring because there were so many of them last year. And you said, I think on the podcast, you said, just because they brought them in, they're not going to work. Most of these guys aren't going to pan out. But if 1 or 2 does, there's no downside to these. They're not giving them any guaranteed money. Kind
of the theme of their offseason.
Yeah.
At least with Paris Campbell, he had like a big year in the league.
Yeah.
Terrace Marshall hasn't. No. I mean, his best year was 2022. He had 28 catches, 490 yards, and 1 touchdown. Now, I was playing for Carolina.
6'2", 200. So long shot, longest of long shots. He didn't even have good numbers at LSU, obviously, who he was playing with. But won a national title.
I would guess Frank Reich liked him as a player, as a guy in the locker room. I'm sure that was, Nick probably made a phone call to Frank about him.
I'm sure. And it's Terrace, not Terrence. I think the Eagles actually had a guy named Terrace Marshall, didn't they?
I don't know. I didn't say Terrence, did I?
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't correct. But
okay.
I think I initially wrote that. Like when I sat down to write the story, I was like, that's not his name. Like it didn't run. I didn't make that mistake. But yeah.
He was with Vegas last year. Barely played. He caught 3 passes for 41 yards. So a long shot, but
half as many as Paris Campbell.
You look at the Eagles depth chart at receiver. They obviously have the top 2 guys. After that, you have John Dotson, who's going to be here this year.
What do you did he show you enough that you think maybe there's a chance he can do something?
Yeah. I think he slowly started to earn Jalen's trust a little bit. To go to him early in the Super Bowl, I mean, that was a big moment, and he came through. And to his credit, he came through every single time they threw the ball to him. It was just they went a long time without throwing the ball to him. And there was a point last year where he was like the least productive receiver in the NFL in terms of like per snap basis.
Yeah.
But every time they went to him, he made the play.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it looked like he had a touchdown in the Super Bowl, which would have been amazing. They called it a touchdown initially, right?
On the field, it was a touchdown. Reviewed, clearly not.
Yeah, clearly not at the 1, and they scored. But that showed me something. I think he had another catch in that game. I think he might be all right. He's another one who, he was a pretty high first-round pick, right? Was he 16? 16 overall in 22. Just never panned out for Washington, and
then they had a new staff.
He must have enjoyed that NFC Championship game, huh?
Probably.
Yeah. But I loved his attitude. I mean, he was the most positive guy when it would have been so easy to just be like disgusted.
Yeah.
And that showed me a lot.
And then after him, they have the 2 second-year guys now, Johnny Wilson and Nia Smith. Wilson early on, like, carved out a role as a blocking tight end, had a rough drop in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Anias he was hurt initially and then never really did much in camp. Makes the team. He's hurt. He's on IR, right?
Didn't he catch a touchdown in like the Cowboys game at the end of garbage time? I don't know why what are we looking this stuff up for?
Because you brought it up. So he had 7 for 41 on the season and a touchdown. The touchdown came. Gosh.
This is, how many people we're losing right now? I'm not listening.
The touchdown came in the regular season finale.
Yeah, against the Giants. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Johnny's a heck of a blocker, and that's a nice skill. But I'm
talking about Anias.
I know, but I'm just going back to, I'm not sure he's a player, but I mean he's one of the better blockers we've seen. But I don't know if you keep him on the roster just to do that. Maybe you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nick likes to have that guy.
Yeah.
Whether it's Johnny Wilson, whether it's Zach Pascal, you can go back to that time. Like, I think he does like a blocking receiver.
Yeah, no doubt. I just don't know if you like it enough to keep him. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if they have many better options on the 53. You don't have to use a receiver spot on a return man.
Right.
You still have a return man, so maybe it changes the numbers of receiver, but we'll see what happens there.
Yes, we will.
You want to move on real quick? I did my all Howie Roseman draft team, and we did this last year, so it wasn't all new, but I updated it because as I went through it, I realized that there's some new players.
There are
on the list.
Some good ones.
Yeah, so we can go through position by position. We don't have to spend a lot of time on the ones that are obvious, but we'll spend some time on the new additions to the list. Quarterback is a no-brainer. It's Jalen Hurts.
I thought you'd say Tanner, but I guess you can go with Jalen.
You look so surprised. It was Jalen last year, and then he won Super Bowl MVP. It's not going to be anyone else.
Fair.
Yeah. Before last year, like you could still like kind of argue for that one Carson year being enough, but it wasn't.
No.
And Nick Foles, he's such a weird career. You don't even know what to do with it because the biggest moment of his career came not as a really draft pick, but as a free agent.
True. Although he had that incredible year in 2013 as a draft pick.
He did, but that was really like 1 year of success.
Yeah, half a year, really.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So quarterback is Jalen Hurts. Running back, it's still Miles Sanders. And it's not really close.
Yeah.
You look at the other running backs that Howie has drafted. There's not really much competition. I guess the second one on this list would probably be Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah. Miles' numbers. I never thought Miles was as good as his numbers. He's playing behind that O-line.
He really had 1 year of elite production.
As far as yards, but I mean, he always averaged 5 yards a carry. Mm-hmm. He's got the highest rushing average in team history, other than like Michael Vick and Randall quarterbacks. But I mean, every year he had like 800 yards and 5.0 average. I mean, he put up good numbers. I wasn't shocked it didn't go well for him in Carolina. He's with Dallas now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. I think he'll be a guy. He'll come to the link when the Cowboys, if he makes the team. And like some guys get booed, some guys get cheered. Nobody will really care.
Yeah, I thought you were about to say he's going to get booed. I was like, I don't think anyone's going to even.
No, nobody's going to. There's going to be no reaction.
Yeah. Which is a shame. They were excited when they drafted him. Second round pick. It's a high pick for them to use on a running back.
Yeah. And I mean, he was pretty good. I mean, it's funny because the top two rushing averages in team history are two Penn State teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And Miles is ahead of Saquon still. No, he's not. Saquon's ahead. Anyway, all right. So where do we go from there?
Yes.
Receivers.
I put this team in 12 personnel, which tells you that receivers haven't been great.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith is a no-brainer, obviously on the list. The only other one you can put on here is Jordan Matthews.
Yeah.
It's a rough list.
Yeah.
Under Howie.
And
like same with running back, like receiver, he's found the players, but he hasn't drafted them.
Deshaun was 08.
Before
Macklin
he was
09.
Yeah.
He became GM in 10. So, yeah.
So you're talking about his first receiver was Riley Cooper, then Marvin McNutt, Josh Huff,
Riley Cooper had that 835-yard season.
Jordan Matthews, Shelton Gibson, Mac Hollins, JJ Arthega-Whiteside, Quez Watkins, John Hightower, Jalen Rager, Devontae Smith he hit, and then the 2 rookies from last year.
Yeah, that's slim pickings. Although Mac Hollins still in the league. A nice career.
He has. He's carved out a decent career for himself. Weird guy.
I like Mac.
I do too.
Yeah.
Great personality.
Yeah. Even though you almost ran him over on his bike.
He used to ride his bike to work every day. Yeah. Tight end. We talked about tight end already today, but Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert.
So you're on 2 tights.
Pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 of your 4 tight ends have been really, really good.
Yeah. So if you were going 3 wides, who would the 3rd wide receiver be after Devontae and Jordan Matthews? Because I'm going to get you to pick between. I guess you got to go Ertz over Goddard.
Oh, if I was going, I thought you were saying who would the 3rd receiver be.
Well, I was just kind of rationalizing only having 1 tight end.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I needed a 3rd.
Yeah, receiver. I mean, if you had to go 1 tight end, it's obviously Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Not a knock at Goddard at all, but
yeah.
The 3rd receiver would be.
Who would it be?
Quez.
God, I'll take Mac over Quez. Yeah, that's. I mean, you understand why I put him in 12 personnel to save myself that headache. No, it's good move.
Yeah. Offensive line.
That's a little better than that bleak wide receiver history.
Yeah. A little bit better. Left tackle Jordan Mailata, left guard Landon Dickerson, center Jason Kelsey, right guard Isaac Seumalo, right tackle Lane Johnson.
So the 22 Super Bowl starting lineup.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, at a certain point, if Cam keeps stacking Pro Bowls at center, would I put him at right guard over Seumalo? That's an internal battle in my brain that no one else cares about. But I'm already thinking 4 years, 5 years down the line, what do I do there? Because Isaac will have been the better right guard, but at that point, Cam will be the better player.
I was happy Isaac made the Pro Bowl this year, his first one.
I didn't even realize he did. That's great for him.
Yeah, he made it. I think he was a replacement, but he made it eventually. And I believe that means every offensive lineman that started at least 50 games for Stout has made a Pro Bowl with the exception of Jordan Mailata.
And that's coming.
Which is absurd, but yeah. So go defense?
I'm thinking if Tyler Steen plays this year and has a really good year, he probably wouldn't supplant Seumalo, but
we'll see. If he makes first team All-Pro.
Yeah. On defense, defensive ends or edge rushers, Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
Nolan on the trajectory. I mean, it's going to take a lot to unseat those guys, but he's off to a really good start.
Yeah. If
you had to go 3, a 3rd player, Vinny Curry probably is in there.
I'll take Nolan over Vinny.
Right now?
Yeah. Vinny had that 1 year.
Nolan's had 1 year.
And Vinny had in the league. He's only played 1 year. Yeah, I'm not going Vinny. I love Vinny. I mean, how many sacks did he have other than that 9-sack season, his 3rd year? He had 5 sacks in 2019. Well, all right. I'll go Vinny.
I mean, yeah.
Begrudgingly. He had 32 sacks.
He had 8 years here.
Yeah, he had 30 sacks in 8 years. It's 3.7 sacks a season. Okay.
I'm not saying Nolan won't.
I'm going Nolan. I'm taking Nolan.
For a spot that doesn't exist, you're taking Nolan. All right. Defensive tackle is pretty easy.
Dave does not like when I disagree with him. All right, what's that?
Well, it's to say that Vinny only had 1 year, but then obviously Nolan only has 1 year.
But I'd rather have a guy who had 1 out of 1 year that he played than a guy who had 1 good year out of 9 years that he played.
But to say those other years because they weren't productive weren't good is not fair.
Yes, it is.
Sack production is not everything. I know you can't get past the stats sometimes, but it's not everything. He was a really good run-stuffing defensive end in part of his career.
At the end of his career, he was a good run defender. But Vinny as a second-round pick was a disappointing player.
Okay.
That's all.
Got to see it from Nolan, right? Like, he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, he certainly had a better postseason than Vinny's ever had in
He had a great postseason.
In a high leverage. Vinny never had a postseason sack. Did he have how many postseason? He never had a postseason tackle for loss. And I love Vinny, but come on, he was not good. He would tell you that too.
That he wasn't good?
Yeah.
I think that's taking it too far.
We saw Vinny at he was
Super Bowl.
Was he at the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I didn't see him there. I saw him at a home game in the playoffs. He was right by where we do our TV hits. It was good seeing him. Good guy.
Defensive tackle.
Neptune, New Jersey.
It's Fletcher and Jalen Carter.
Yeah, can't go wrong there.
Yeah, and Milton Williams would be the third, but yeah, sorry. Those two are really good.
Yeah.
They're not getting unseated anytime soon.
No.
At linebacker, we have a new player. Take a height, Nate Gary.
Was he actually?
Yeah. N'Kobe Dean, now one of the other linebackers.
Yeah.
Along with Michael Kendricks.
Okay. Kendrick's second round pick. N'Kobe was a 3. N'Kobe was really good. It's a shame that injury he was playing so well. And like Zach Bond's better, but it wasn't that far off. I mean, N'Kobe was making plays. He was making big plays, getting, just splash plays. Interception, clinched the game. Tackles for loss, big plays. I was so impressed with him.
Yeah, he played great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see when he comes back.
Yeah, that's a tough injury. And there's no guarantees he'll be the same player.
Yeah, that's I think in the back of everyone's mind with him, and just hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
Cornerback, we have 2 new players.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Who are the originals? Who was the holdovers?
Okay, so
the incumbents.
The one that we kept was Jalen Mills.
Okay.
We got rid of Rasul Douglas.
Okay.
And we got rid of Avonte.
Who's still in the league.
And we got rid of Avonte Maddox, which Avonte played some good years for the Eagles, but let's be honest, Cooper's 1 year was so much better.
Yeah, sure.
So you end up with Jalen Mills, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper Jean as the 3 corners.
Was Rasul better than Jalen Mills?
No.
Rasul got a lot of interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen got a few. That's close for me. Yeah. I might go. And Maddox was pretty good for a while, for a long time.
He missed a lot of games too.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jalen Mills played safety for a while, right?
He came back 1 year, the year after Malcolm Jenkins left. They signed Jalen to replace him. 1 year, $4 million.
Yeah. So he only played corner 4 years here. Had 4 interceptions, 3 of them in 17. I'm going to think about this one. I might put Avonte ahead of Jalen Mills.
Oh, not Rasul. I thought you were going to Rasul.
No, I might go Avonte. I think Avonte was pretty good slot for a long time.
Yeah, then injuries,
you got Jalen Mills
on this fake team. Who's playing outside then?
I'm going three corners.
Label.
I'll play Cooper outside.
Okay.
I'll play Avonte in the slot. But I mean, Jalen Mills only played 8 games in 18 and 9 games in 19. So he only played 17 and 31. He only played 48 games as a corner with the Eagles and only started 34 of them. And he was really good in 17. Really good in the red zone. Really good red zone corner. Okay.
And safety, Nate Allen and Kirk Coleman. Let's not get into this because it's
Who else is there?
Jaquan Jarrett, Jordan Poyer, Earl Wolf, Ed Reynolds, Blake Countess.
Ed Reynolds. He had a pick 6 in a preseason game.
Kayvon Wallace, Jacoby Stevens, Sidney Brown.
Wow.
Yeah. Reed wasn't drafted. If we included undrafted players, he'd be on this.
That's crazy. So Nate Allen and and Kurt Coleman. Now, Kurt Coleman and Jordan Poyer became an All-Pro with the Bills.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help him here. Kurt Coleman had some good years with the Panthers and the Bills.
And it didn't help him here, but he was still.
Well, he had some picks here, right? I mean, he had a lot of picks in his career as a 7th-round pick. Also, just a great guy. Pro Football Reference lists him as a linebacker. They're thinking.
Really?
But then when you search for like interceptions by safeties, he doesn't come up, which is a problem. He had 21 interceptions in his career.
Safety is the position. Like, if you had to pick one position on this list that's most likely to change when I do this next year, I think safety is it.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, just by default.
Kind of.
Like, why did you draft him? Well, he's better than Nate Allen. Nate Allen had interceptions in his first 3 games, right? And then he had like 2 more the rest of his career. Let me see. We're doing a lot of research on that. We're not used to working this hard. So his rookie year was 2010. I think they drafted him with one of the picks they got from Washington in the Donovan deal.
Mm-hmm.
He had interceptions in 3 of his first 4 games, and he had a sack in the other one. So he had 3 interceptions in his first 4 games with the Eagles, and then had 6 in his next 70 games. Yeah. It's amazing that they made the playoffs a few years with Nate Allen. I don't want to sit here and rip Nate Allen, but
he says after doing that for 4 minutes straight.
It was 3.5. He's a good guy, Nate Allen. Finished his career. Well, how many years did he get? He played 8 years in the league. Finished in Oakland and Miami. He was here with the Dolphins for joint practices.
He was.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. That was fun.
I like that. That's a fun topic.
That is fun. It's always fun looking back at some of the drafts. We want to get 2 questions before we run out of time. If you have one for us, it's Eagle Eye at NBC Uni. That's Eagle Eye at NBCUNI.com. QR code is on the screen. We'll leave it up there if you're watching on YouTube. Let's get right into it. First one is from Ryan. Hi, Dave and Reuben. I'm heading out to Green Bay for the NFL draft this year from Sydney, Australia, as I won the Eagles International Fan of the Year competition.
Wow, good for you.
As someone who has never been to Green Bay, the draft, or even the U.S. before, do you have any recommendations on things I should see / places to go in Green Bay while I'm there, and any advice for someone visiting the U.S. for the first time? Love the show. Hope to maybe see you guys there. Go Birds. We won't be in Green Bay for the draft, but first, Ryan, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's really
tremendous. Cool. There's a nice lighthouse tour not too far away in around, what lake was that?
That's Lake Winnebago.
Yeah. Dave and I did a tour of lighthouses.
We did. I would say, I don't know if it's going to be open during the whole draft thing, but we talked about that museum at Lambeau.
Oh, I bet it'll be open.
Is very cool to see.
Great.
I would kind of lean into whatever the NFL has going on for the draft. There's not a ton else in that area, but I mean, you're probably trying to get some food while you're here. The staple of the Midwest, especially Wisconsin, cheese curds.
They love their cheese curds.
Kind of divisive, but I like a cheese curd.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. You?
Not a big cheese curd guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you give it a try.
Oh, yeah.
You got to give it a go.
I'll try anything.
Yeah. I don't know how long you're going to be in the States. I don't know if you're going anywhere else, but if you're staying in that area, I hope you get some nice weather.
That's problematic in April, but just seeing the stadium, I mean, just walking around
Lambeau.
It's unbelievable. I mean, Lambeau, if you haven't been there, it's like in a neighborhood. It's so cool. It's like if they put the link, or say Franklin Field, just in the middle of like Fishtown. It's just so cool. Like there's a laundromat, there's a travel agency.
I mean, I feel like it's even
there's Lambeau.
Feels even more like suburbs, and it's like little individual houses with little yards.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Yeah, it is.
Hope you enjoy it though, Ryan.
Yeah, have a great time.
Email us back and let us know how it went.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I want to hear about the trip and safe travels and all that good stuff. Next one is from Mike. Quick question about the draft. Do you guys like how the worst team gets rewarded with the best pick in the draft? Or are you like me and think actually winning the Super Bowl should grant you the number 1 pick overall? This would make teams stop tanking and actually play for something. I personally think it should be in reverse order. Thoughts?
Well, there's so many wild cards now. Teams don't really tank because everybody's got a shot at making the playoffs with like 4 weeks to go. So I don't worry about that. Maybe in the NBA, but not in the NFL. And look, they want parity because parity means every team is going to have interest. I mean, fans are going to be interested in every team. So if you get the first pick, all of a sudden you're not a 3-14 team anymore. So that's the way it's going to be. And my mom had the same thing. My mom thought it was really unfair. It's like, if you win the Super Bowl, you should get the first pick.
I mean, you could do some sort of like a lottery for the top pick and maybe like a lottery at the other end.
I guess you could. I like it the way it is.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to change. But what if you did like a reverse lottery? So you do the lottery with, what is the NBA? How many teams are in the lottery?
I don't know.
Okay. But you have it for the top picks, but then like at the bottom too, maybe you have a lottery and only the middle ground teams are locked in. That way, if you win the Super Bowl, you could end up with pick 26.
I mean, more pre-rights for us.
Not really.
No, I guess
we would know by the time the draft comes.
Pick, yeah.
All right. Next one from Chris. Been an Eagles fan since the mid 80s. Living out in California can sometimes be hard to get good intel on the birds. You both provide excellent intel. Been listening since 2022. My question is, with BG retiring and Slay in Pittsburgh, who do you see as captains for next season? I think Saquon will be one, and perhaps Jalen Carter or Zach Bond as another one. To go along with the captains remaining on the roster, Jalen Hurts, Jake Elliott, A.J. Brown, and Lane Johnson. Keep up the great work. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. I also think Mailata was a captain last year as well.
Yeah. I think Reed Blankenship's a guy I could see getting that nod.
Yeah, that's one of the things Slice said. It did not rub C.J. Gardner-Johnson the right way before he got traded.
Yeah, he didn't like that.
Zach Bond's a really good one.
Yeah.
I think by the end of the season, he had really kind of taken over. And N'Kobe would be right there in that mix too. If we're looking like losing BG and Slay, you're trying to figure it out on defense.
Right. What about offense? Those are all defensive guys.
Offense, they have so many already.
Yeah. And it's pretty much.
They have Jalen, they have Jordan, they have Lane, they have AJ, they had Devontae. He lost the C. I mean, didn't really
got impeached. Yeah.
Yeah. People like it. It's a numbers crunch. I mean, Saquon obviously was a big time leader.
Yeah.
I think Landon leads that offensive line room. He's got a loud vocal.
He sure does.
Presence about him. And then on defense,
Terrace Marshall Jr. maybe.
On defense, I think there will be a new C on someone. All right, because you're bringing back. Yeah, you're not bringing back anyone, right?
Yeah.
So Zach Bond, I think, is a good one. Reed Blankenship's a good one.
I could even see Cooper, honestly.
I don't think Cooper in year 2.
Wouldn't be shocked. But I think Reed's an obvious one. Yeah.
I think Bond is an obvious one. N'Kobe's hurt, so that throws a wrench in there.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Davis is a good one.
Interesting.
Yeah. Nolan, perhaps?
Certainly loud. He does have.
It's his room now.
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good choices.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got some questions about the kickoff rule. You want to get into this today, or you want to save this for another?
Let's save kickoff rule.
Okay, let's save the rest of these. I love that we got a bunch of kickoff rule questions, but we'll save those for another. But what a tease that is!
I know.
You keep listening to this podcast later in the week. We're gonna have kickoff questions.
Ratings through the roof.
Through the roof there. This is where I tell you if you have a question, eagle@nbcuni.com. And if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Rube, any final thoughts today?
Just a reminder that during the draft, we'll have a podcast every night.
That's true.
And looking forward to that. So we'll have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday podcasts.
Right around the corner.
It's coming up. 9 days away.
Really exciting. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. Take care, everyone.